Welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining me again. We're going to talk a little bit more about some Discord features that are a little bit more advanced or complicated. So let's get started. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about channel settings. Now you can get pretty complicated with the settings that you apply to specific channels, but I'm just going to talk about a few of them that you might find the most useful. So this info and roles channel that I created in the previous video, it does have a few unique settings that I have applied to it. The way that you can view those settings is by going over into the channel list on the left side and hitting that little gear icon next to it. Edit channel. Now this has all kinds of options for you, and I'm going to go over a few of them here. If you would like, you can add a description to each of your channels, which shows up near the top. This can be useful. I like to do this in the info and roles channel. I just have that channel list where I explain what every channel is for, but this is another option of how you can convey that to people. There's this setting called slow mode. This is an interesting feature. You can make it so that users can only send a message in a given channel once every given interval of time. So if you set it to 10 minutes, if a user were to send a message, then they could not send another message for 10 minutes. This is to discourage users from using specific channels for conversations, such as perhaps the Notes and Resources channel, where users might be sending notes, but they might not necessarily be encouraged to have idle chat. But for this channel, we don't need that because users aren't allowed to send messages in it anyway. You're going to find stuff like that here in permissions. So in permissions, specifically for the info and roles channel, I have disabled quite a few permissions for the everyone group. That means this applies to everyone. I've made it so that nobody can send messages or create threads. I've also made it so that nobody can add new reactions. In most cases, in any given channel, if you send a message, you can react to it by right-clicking and then picking a reaction. Let's do some books. I've disabled that in the info and roles channel because we're using the reaction roles bot, which I will get into a little later, and adding new reactions to these messages might cause some issues, so that's disabled here. A bunch of other permissions have been disabled as well. You want to make sure that users are able to view these channels, but you can prevent them from sending messages in them. That first option here is the view channel permission. Most channels you're going to want to make sure that everybody can view them. If you don't want them to view the channels, you can set it to a private channel, which makes it so that only you and certain roles that you assign will be able to view that channel. By default, that means that only you and anybody with the gear role or the moderator role would be able to see that channel. The moderator only channel down here is an example of that. So earlier I showed you how to manually assign roles to users in your server, but you can actually make a bot do that for you so that they don't even have to ask you to assign them those roles. So let's go over how to do that. The bot we're going to be using is called Reaction Roles, and you can find it just by looking it up. It should be the first result on Google, but I am also going to provide you with a link. So if you open your web browser and look up Reaction Roles, you should be able to navigate to this website. It is the top option right here. Just click on that, open the website, and then hit here, Invite. This is going to bring you to this window with some fancy particles over here. And it'll say all this stuff. Sounds a little techy, so ignore that. Then you're going to want to select the server that you want to invite the bot to. So we're doing Psych 101-005 with Professor Joel. which is the server we just made. Then you just hit continue, leave all of these checked, and hit authorize. It's going to want to make sure that you're a human, so go ahead and tell it that you are, and you'll get that notification that somebody has just joined your server. That somebody is Reaction Roles. This is a robot, not a real person. I mentioned before that robots get the bot role. In order to do that, just click on its name, go down here to the little plus, and hit bot. Now it's a bot. Giving it that role, make sure that it has all the permissions that it needs to alter things in the server. And then we're going to want to put it to use. So I've typed up a little template here. This is a favorite color selector. Earlier I mentioned that I have roles for all of the colors of the rainbow so that users can choose whichever color they like most to change the color of their name. We can use this bot to automate that process. So I have all these emojis that I've listed out here. I choose emojis with different shapes just so that if anybody has trouble differentiating between colors, they don't have trouble selecting the correct emoji when it comes time to pick their favorite color. So what you have to do is send any kind of message that matches an emoji to a role. So I've chosen the red apple to represent red. So I would type a little @ symbol to start a ping, and then type in red. I've created this red role here. I click that, and bam, apple for red. I'm choosing an orange for orange, a sun for yellow, a tree for green, a wave for blue, some grapes for purple, and a cherry blossom for pink. Once you've typed up a message that you're satisfied with, again, just make sure that you are matching an emoji to a role. You can go ahead and send that. Here it is, your message. And then we're going to want to call on reaction roles to make this work for us. So now that we have our pretty message typed up, we're going to want to execute a command. Commands basically tell bots to do things for you, and they're very simple. They just sound complicated. So all you have to do is go into the messages section, type a slash, type in reaction role add. It's going to be this option here. Reaction role is one word, so make sure you're not putting a space there. Click reaction role add, and it's going to create several fillable fields for you. In my message here, I mentioned that you should press the apple for red. So I'm going to make sure that that matches up by selecting the apple here. When I go to role, I want to make sure that I'm typing in red, picking the red role. For type, you just want to hit standard, add/remove. Don't pick any of these other ones, or it's going to make some difficulties for you later on. So just make sure you're hitting standard. And then it wants the message link. So to get that message link, you're going to go over to the message where you've typed out all these roles and emojis. Hit more. Go down to copy message link. And then paste that in here. Once that's all filled out, you go ahead and hit enter. You're going to see this big old message. Only you can see this. It says that down at the bottom here. And you can feel free to dismiss it to get it out of your way. So earlier I made my name purple. I'm going to remove that right now. You'll notice that at the bottom of this message now there's a button. It's an apple button. if you would like your name to turn red, all you have to do now is press that Apple button. You'll get a message from reaction roles, and over here, you'll notice that your name is red now. You can undo that by deselecting the apple, and you'll get another message. Now you can do this for all of the roles. This is definitely a little tedious, but it can be helpful. Totally not necessary, but helpful. Dismiss the message, and now there's an orange button. If you press it, your name turns orange. You can do that for all of the roles. Another way you can use this bot is to assign people into groups. So I have this group selection message typed up. I'm going to go ahead and send that. And then you can use reaction roles one more time to set up buttons that will assign people into groups. So that's /reaction roles add. For this one, I'm going to use numbers. So the emoji 1 for the role group 1. Make sure you hit standard. Make sure you're selecting the new message link, not the old one. Send that. Dismiss the message, and now you'll see a 1 button beneath that message. Now I'm up top here. I'm just in the online pool currently, but I can do something about that with these buttons. I can join group 1. Now I'm in the group 1 section up top, and I can pick my favorite color, which changes the color of my name. And now you don't have to assign roles to users manually. They can do it themselves by clicking the buttons in the Info and Roles channel. Easy. So on the topic of roles and permissions, let's talk about how to actually create and delete roles and how to add permissions. So let's say, for example, you wanted a 7th group role to go along with the group roles that you already have. Of course, you could add a channel for this group and a voice channel for this group. But that actually won't create the role. You'll need to do that yourself. In order to do that, you'll go up top and press this little caret. Go ahead and press Server Settings. Go to Roles, which is the second option down. Select Create Role. And for our purposes, we're going to call this Group 7. You probably won't want to change the color of this role, because doing so might override the colors of these roles here. So just go ahead and reorder this, and this part is important. Just make sure to drag it right underneath the other group roles. And then you'll want to change 2 permissions. For whatever reason, these 2 permissions are not displayed with the rest of the permissions. They are the display role members separately and the allow anyone to mention this role. For group roles, you'll probably want to tick both of these. What this one does is it makes it so that this will have a separate header in the player list when the player list is visible, so that members in Group 7 will show as Group 7 in the player list. Allowing anyone to mention this role allows any user on the server to ping that group in its entirety. That way, members of groups can ping each other without having to ping each member separately. So, tick both of those for a group role, hit Save Changes, and now you have a 7th group. You can add that to your group selection buttons down here if you have invited reaction roles to your server, just like you did all the other ranks here, just choose your emoji, pick the role, group 7, which you just created. Standard, make sure to copy the message link. Now there's a 7th button, which you can press. And now I'm in group 7. Also, if you decide you no longer want a 7th group, and you don't want that reaction here, giving users the option to select the 7th group, all you have to do is right-click the message, go to Remove Reactions, go to 7, and then hit Yes. It's gone. It's no longer possible to select group 7, but the role does still exist. If you want to remove the role, you go to that caret, go to Server Settings, Roles, find group 7, press these 3 dots, and hit Delete. Of course, now the channels, group 7 VC and group 7, no longer have a purpose, so we can delete those as well. Now let's talk a little bit more about permissions. You can adjust permissions for individual roles, or even everybody all at once. The way you do this is by heading into the Roles section of Server Settings, and then selecting which role you would like to change the permissions of. So, for now, we're just going to head into Default Permissions, which changes everybody's permissions. Click that. You can see that there are all kinds of permissions here. I'm not going to go over them all because that would take a very long time. But let's say, for example, you wanted every single user to be able to create and manage events. All you would have to do is scroll down to Create and Manage Events and tick those. Make sure that once you've done that, you hit Save Changes, and now everybody in your server will be able to use the Events tab to create events. Speaking of events, you can create events using the Events tab up top. If you want to do this, all you have to do is press Events, Create Events, and then select where the event will occur. This can be in one of the voice channels, one of the text channels, or even a physical location. Let's do the library. Hit Next. Talk about what the event is. Pick the date and the time. Let's say 9 a.m. Give it a description. You can choose to upload an image, but that's not necessary. And then hit Next. You'll see a little preview. You hit Create Event. You get some confetti. You can copy this link to let others know about the event. It also functions as an invitation link to the server. Or you can just X out of that and X out of that. And you'll see that up top, there's a notification for an upcoming event. Users can choose to RSVP using that link, and it just lets everybody know when the event is, right up top, so it's easy to see. You can also cancel that event by going up into the Events tab, clicking the dots next to the event, and hitting Cancel Event. One more time, cancel event, and now it's gone. There's a lot to know about Discord. It can get pretty complicated if you choose to delve into it, but at this point you know quite a bit about how to create and run a Discord server. Hopefully, you'll be able to use this tutorial to create communities that help both you and your fellow students. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great term.